Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 66. We got a 1-year fantasy forecast. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy. And as always, Fantasy Football Infinity. Join the Dynasty Theory Discord and please like, comment, and subscribe. Holler and McSpanky are with me tonight. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. We actually just got back. My oldest daughter had her first T-ball game tonight, and so that was super fun. She did awesome. She hit the ball on her first try both times she was up there, so she hit the ball really well, and she had fun. We only
Nice.
cried once and had a good time. So.
Love it.
One cry is good.
Yeah, one cry.
We've got a few years before that stuff, but I can't wait. It should be fun.
Yeah. Toddler sports are an event. I had to coach my daughter's soccer team this past weekend. Like, I just filled in for the coach. I'm not the actual coach. And that dude's a saint. It's a nightmare. All these kids are like, I'm tired. Like, sit down on the ball. Then we have these sisters that are fighting because one's a shark, one's a minnow. I'm just like, dude, nope. It's crazy out there.
Yeah,
not for me.
Sports are, when they're that little, are kind of fun because it looks somewhat like an actual sport and a lot of just like controlled chaos. So
definitely.
Yep. Looks fun. I was looking at our, kind of to segue away, but I was looking at our intro. I think it might be time for us to update our hot takes.
I've been thinking that every time because we still referencing Jordan Addison and H-An and Ron, yours is fine. Yours is generic enough.
Yeah, I think mine's gonna stay forever.
Yeah, I like yours is good. Yeah,
better be lucky than good. That's for sure. Wow. Let's get into the news. And looks like Britney Spears is here. Oops, I did it again. Rasheed Rice back in the news. Yeah, I do like that. Swinging on photographers allegedly. I think Holler said it best in our chat. He should just stay inside, and play video games, man. Just stay away.
Honestly, he should. This is ridiculous. This is what, like, twice in the last month that he's gotten into some kind of legal trouble. Like, and you know what's funny is I saw a tweet and I forget who had it, so I can't give him credit, and I feel bad about that. But someone said during the draft cycle last year, one NFL scout was like, yeah, he's an awesome football player, but he's a terrible person. Like, he's just not a good dude. Like, super concerned. They took him off the draft board entirely. And I said, that was kind of weird. But looking at it now, I'm like, well, maybe they did their homework. I don't know.
Yeah. It makes total sense too, because didn't Travis Kelce had like partier attached to him when he came out? Look at the things that Tyreek's got himself into. They were perfectly fine bringing Kadarius Toney in. Well, who was the running back? Kareem Hunt had his own issues. These are all Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
I worry a little bit about Worthy, but nothing's come out yet. So I think
just wait 3 years.
Yeah, hopefully he's a
different
year. Breed, but but I think it comes with the whole team like does really well, and I just feel like it comes with a little bit with the territory, right? They think they're on top of the world, and they think they're kind of like they can't get in trouble, and so I don't know. It's rough. I'm glad I have a low percentage rostership of Rasheed Rice. If you moved him earlier before this, you're lucky. I saw a pretty equal trade in one of my I think it was Joe Mixon and a third for Rasheed Rice, which I think is fine. And depending on, I know it's cheap on the Rice side in my opinion. But if you need a running back and you're kind of a contending team, I think it's all right. I think obviously Rice is going to miss some games, but I think I said it a couple of weeks ago when the first issue came out is I think the best thing to do is just hold right now, right? Because you're only going to lose in value, and unless you're buying him on the cheap, then you're good. But I think if you have him, I think you should just hold him because you're going to lose out. I was looking at my wide receivers to pick for tonight, and he's all the way down at wide receiver 40, which to me is just crazy. There's guys that are above him are like A.D. Mitchell, Leggett, like old guys like Diggs, Adams, Evans, like he shouldn't be behind these guys, but if he's going to miss time, I think I understand it.
Yeah, well, the crazy thing is that's on Fantasy Calc on KeepTradeCut. He's down at wide receiver 51 on that site. Which is nuts. And I'm like, there's no way that anyone who has him is actually valuing him that low. Like, personally, I know this is bad, but I still haven't really even moved him down just because he's gonna get suspended. This is just another incident, and maybe it adds an extra game or something to suspension. I don't know how that works, but like, I don't know. Like, he's a head case, and it's a concern for sure. Like, he had one good year, and now all of a sudden he went full AB, and in record time.
Yeah.
But I think if you, because people are talking in the Discord too, the Dynasty Theory Discord, like, oh, what do I do with Rashee Rice now? Like, what can I buy him for? Can you buy him for super cheap? And I think the thing I said was, I mean, the people who had him and held him to the first incident, they're not going to sell him now, right? Like, I think
no point.
If it's people like Ron and I, we're just gonna dig our head in the sand and just be like, nope, I don't care what happens. He's dying on my roster now.
Pretty much at this point, yeah.
Exactly, because just like what I talked about in that trade earlier is like, unless you're a contender and you think he's gonna miss over half the season, and you're like a couple pieces away from feeling like you're really gonna go for the ship, like getting somebody like Joe Mixon for Rashee Rice, like I personally don't, I wouldn't do that, right? So. To sell, I would buy for that all day, but I just right now you're going to be taking a big like pay cut if you're trying to sell them. So hold.
Yeah, I think the lowest I would sell them for right now is like a late first, and even then, I'm probably. But no one's willing to pay that now because they're like, well, look, this is 2 legal issues in a row.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think, we just need to see what comes of these legal issues. Hopefully no more pop up. It does become more worrisome getting this second one in there. Like, oh my God, really? You can't,
Like, is this your best behavior? Is
right.
From the first incident, is you punching out a photographer or doing, whatever?
What have you not got caught doing? Like,
well, that's a dangerous question.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous question. Hopefully he get his head on straight. He is in Kansas City, hopefully they can rein that in, come season or whatever. That suspension has still yet to come down. So I want to see what the NFL says about it.
Yeah. Well, if there's any kind of like legal, this thing we probably haven't talked about, if there's any kind of like legal issues that are ongoing and dragged to a certain point, the NFL has pushed suspensions out. So there's a possibility that it was Alvin Kamara who got a suspension like 18 months after his incident happened.
Yep.
It was the whole season after, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing to keep an eye on too, with it happening kind of later in the season.
Another reason to hold, because like if he does play the beginning of the season and you sold him for pretty cheap, then you kind of you're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Much to do about nothing. OBJ signs with the Dolphins. Do we care about OBJ being there?
Not so much for OBJ, but I think it's nice for the Dolphins as a whole. They kind of needed a third guy, and I don't think very highly of OBJ still, but he's better than who was it? Braxton Berrios and Eric. I don't know how to
Braxton
his
is
last
a
name,
baller. River Craycraft.
Yes.
Oh wow!
Exactly.
Nice work.
Pull that one out.
Thank you.
Got a few. It helps Tua.
Yeah, I think if anything, it just kind of helps the offense altogether. OBJ is not somebody that you're probably going to put in your lineup week after week. I saw some kind of definitely not. I saw some stat where like he's had like close to 500 yards the last 2 seasons, so it's like nothing really to bat an eye at. So, but I do think it helps the offense overall. Helps Tua. Should help the other 2 wide receivers as well. So overall, I think it was a solid signing.
Yeah, he's pretty washed at this point, but he has another body. He had 39 catches and almost 600 yards last year for Baltimore, so he's not like useless. At least from a real life perspective, he's just not like fantasy relevant anymore.
I think he housed a slant last year too. Like there's still get those one games where like the shades of the old OBJ come out. Like when these wily vets get that one game in them, and there's an extra spring in their step, and all of a sudden here they are.
You got some extra painkillers before the kickoff.
Oh yeah,
feeling good again.
Dude. Yeah, we got the balance right today, boys.
Yep. One quick note is him and Jalen Ramsey are back together. Last time they were together, they won a Super Bowl. So all you betting fans out there, maybe
that's fair.
Do
they have to play? Well, the Dolphins have to play outside in the playoffs.
Yes,
depends if they get home field or not.
And then outside of Florida, if they are outside of Florida, nope.
Yeah, no, I
can't do it.
I would not bet on them to make it to the Super Bowl, but I would assume that they will have to play outside of Florida. I don't think they could, be a number 1 or 2, but you never know.
Yeah, they have to take down the Bills to win their division, and then they have to take down Mahomes.
That's probably the more concerning issue.
And Lamar.
And I think the Jets will be good. If Aaron Jones can, if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, I think the whole team is.
How many times have we said that about the Jets?
Yeah,
supposedly turning a corner.
It's true.
I'll believe it when I see it.
But Zach Wilson was.
I hope it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, he was the quarterback last year. So, and whoever else was there. So I just think if Rodgers can stay healthy, they will be a solid team.
Yeah, they should be fine.
Yeah, I like my Aaron Rodgers best pouting on the sidelines.
Fair.
Rashad Penny signs with the Panthers. Don't have any contract details. He played all of 14 snaps last year in Philly. Remember, there's a point in time where people thought it was going to be a split between Swift and Penny, man.
Yep.
Still kind of shocked that he got like no carries.
So, he's got to be washed then, right? Like he didn't look particularly good with the carries he did get. And I remember there was a game too. I think like either Swift was hurt or something, and we were just like, okay, this is finally the Penny time. And then it was like, no, never mind. It's Boston Scott and it's Kenneth Gainwell, and it's just like, okay, so how bad is Rashad?
Yeah, so
honestly, is this just a camp body? Like, does he actually make the 53? Like, I'm starting to think he probably doesn't, right? Like,
I don't think he does, but I would see if Miles Sanders gets traded, I think he could make it. Yeah, or they cut him. I think he could make the 53, but I don't think he does. If they're going to carry Chuba, Jonathon Brooks, and Miles Sanders, I think he's the odd man out for sure. You can't beat out Boston Scott.
The only thing is this:
maybe Brooks sits on
if Penny plays special teams, because I know Miles Sanders doesn't. I don't think Penny does either, but that would be his only path to the roster, in my opinion. Or like Ron said, if he starts in the pup.
So I mean, if anything, I think this could mean that Sanders gets cut. I think they owe him a good amount of money, so it'll just depend on what happens if they cut him. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the deadline is, I think usually it's like June 1st for a certain amount of money, or after June 1st. So that'll be a couple weeks away. So there's some rumblings about wishing Miles Sanders to Dallas. But then again, will he be able to beat out the guys there in Dallas? They got Zeke. I think personally, Zeke's not that good, but I think Zeke looks better than
might be better than Miles Sanders is at this stage.
Exactly. So, I personally don't think it really matters.
Dead cap's 10 mil if they cut him.
Okay.
And post June 1st, it's 7. So that's a hefty chunk of change. I'm guessing he sticks on the roster.
Yeah, probably. Especially with the health of Jonathon Brooks kind of being up in the air up until this point. There's no reason to rush that guy along. Yep. Do you think the Panthers think that they're Super Bowl contenders at this point in time? Like, if they're realistically looking at themselves?
They're delusional.
Right.
That's why my eyes got kind of big. It's like, there's no way they think they are Super Bowl contenders. I mean, we'll talk about it later.
I bet Tepper thinks it.
True.
Well, yeah. I mean, they could maybe win the division if Baker takes a step back in Tampa.
Atlanta's there, though.
Yeah, you have to deal with Kirk in Atlanta, and you have to deal with
we're assuming Kirk Cousins is good, though.
Yeah, because he died because Michael Penix showed up.
No, more about the Achilles, not about Michael Penix. It has nothing to do with Michael Penix. Just that, he's older, coming off an Achilles tear. That's all.
Yeah, I get it. I think he's fine, man. There's no way you would sign him to that contract if he's not, if he's not fine.
There's no way you spend a top 10 pick on a quarterback after spending $100 million on Kirk Cousins either. So.
We could talk about it all day. So it's you never know. Exactly.
Okay, we got Tyler Boyd signing with the Titans. Does it matter? Do we care?
A little bit. Tyler Boyd's actually pretty good, and I think more so for Will Levis. I think this is really helpful, and I think it's another wide receiver who knows the offense, right? So Brian Callahan's coming over from Cincinnati, where Boyd was. So he knows the offense, can kind of help some of the other receivers. Maybe he can help Treylon Burks pull his head out of his butt and figure out how to be an NFL receiver. We'll see.
Does he get cut? I don't think he gets cut, but
I don't think he gets cut. But I think he's going to need to
trade him for a 7th. Come on.
Yeah,
dude. I don't know. So we'll see here. This probably does kill Kyle Phillips, though. I think that probably
he's the dead one.
Kyle Phillips is dead. Yeah, I cut him from a roster the other day. It kind of made me sad.
Same.
Real lunch pail kind of guy.
Yep. Personally, I like the signing. It kind of makes sense. So I think it's a familiar face for the head coach, and their wide receiver core is a little bit older, but sneakily is solid, right? Nuke, Calvin Ridley, and Boyd, I think, is pretty darn good. And so we'll see if Will Levis is good or not, right? You're going to give him, you have give him a good amount of weapons, 2 really good running backs, so I just think that offense it should be good. But we'll see. We'll see who Levis is. I mean, I'm not a huge Levis guy, but I almost put him on my riser just because I think I couldn't really get into it though, just because I don't think he's the greatest. But I just think they're putting good pieces around him.
He didn't. To be fair, you can't really judge him off what he did last year because he didn't. I mean, he didn't have a ton to work with, right?
Correct.
I mean, he had Hopkins and he had Treylon Burks, who we know isn't great, and I think Burks was hurt for a lot of that, and like he really had no receivers. I mean, there was Chiggy, and then Derrick Henry was what he was, but I mean Levis was interesting, right? Because like he came out that first week, he started and he threw like 4 touchdowns and like 240 yards or whatever it was, and then really tapered off after that and didn't really do a whole lot. And so it's like, was that just kind of a flash in the pan, or was it just a learning experience and he just kind of got like what was it, beginner's luck kind of deal on that first game? I don't know, man.
But I think we'll get to see exactly who not exactly, but we'll get to see if he's good or not, right? If he can be a franchise quarterback. They're putting pieces around him, running backs. I think Chiggy's okay, but I think he's kind of like the 5th or 6th option, to be honest. So I just think they're putting some good pieces around him. So we'll see. I don't fully hate Will Levis, especially with all the pieces around him now. So, I think he could take a step forward. But as well, if he doesn't do well, they could go a different direction because that's a new head coach.
I think Tyler Boyd's a nice receiver for a guy like Levis because he'll be exactly where he's supposed to be in the offense. He can find the soft spot in the zone. He can get open. He's kind of a bigger body. Like he's kind of exactly what a young quarterback needs to develop. So
correct. Yep, I agree.
Calvin Ridley to that effect too can get open. I mean, the guy like Hopkins at this point, he's more of a contested catch kind of guy. He's not really going to be a separator. So
yeah,
I
think they all help each other out too. To be honest, so I think that offense should produce for fantasy.
It looks like a competent offense now, at least hopefully.
Sorry, I was
Ron's typing an essay.
He is. Dude, he's typing like he's got essays due at 11:59, and he is
easy peasy.
Barely starting.
Slap. Can you hear my keyboard? You want to get into our risers?
Let's do it.
Okay,
you want to kick us off with your first quarterback run?
Yeah. I picked Trevor Lawrence. I don't know that I necessarily believe that he can rise. I also did this off JB's tiers because mine are outdated because the NFL draft happened. But
on Fantasy Calc, he's down at QB 13, so I think he could rise a little bit. There's Jaden Daniels is above him.
Right. If some of these rookies don't have the rookie year, a spectacular rookie year, he's still young enough to where he puts a solid to above average season together. he can either tread water or jump, a bad rookie. Because, we have Drake May up there. We have Caleb. If any of these guys, really poop the bed, it could really hurt their value for sure. We saw it happen to Bryce Young this past year, and it happened to Zach Wilson just as quickly.
Yep.
And I agree. Like Jordan Love, it doesn't look like it or seem like it. He could take a step back. Who knows what happens with Anthony Richardson's health? I think there's just more so a few questions above T-Law that make this possible for him. I don't totally believe in it because I don't like Christian Kirk's really good. Evan Ingram's good.
Yep.
I don't believe in the whole Brian Thomas Jr. thing. Like, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference for Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback. I think it does give him another target to throw the ball to. And honestly, like, Doug Peterson's teams kind of fizzle out. And I feel like we might be approaching that, like, end of Carson Wentz when they went into Jalen Hurts time when everything was kind of just, like, crapping out on them.
Is he one of your risers or your fallers?
I was going to say, you talk yourself out of them.
That's why I don't believe it. I had to put somebody here, and I didn't want to just go the cop-out answer and give a rookie quarterback. I wanted to get somebody, outside that, could possibly do it.
I believe it. So real quick before, sorry to cut you off there, Spanky, but a couple guys I think that he could, I know Spanky is not really fully sold on Anthony Richardson. Same here. I think he's not the best, passer. And then I think this is kind of a little bit crazy, but Justin Herbert, I think, is going to have some growing pains this year. So I could see, if Trevor Lawrence has a great season, I can see him at the end of the season next year, him being up ahead of someone like Justin Herbert. And then, in my opinion, Justin Herbert would be a cheap buy. And then I think Kyler Murray, I think he needs to kind of show out as well. So I can see him jumping into the top. Obviously, he's QB 13 on Fantasy Calc. So I can see him jumping into the top 10. But I don't see him rising too much, higher up the top 8.
Here's my problem with Trevor Lawrence. I think who he has been these last couple of years is who he is. I don't think he's gonna ever live up to that ceiling that people thought of him when he got drafted with the 101. And like honestly, let's look at his receiving core and you tell me if you think it's an upgrade from last year. Like last year he had Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, and Zay Jones as his top 3. Now he's still got Kirk. But now he's got Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. And depending on how you feel about BTJ, like that feels like a downgrade to me, right? Like, am I crazy for thinking that I'd rather have Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones?
No, not at all, in my opinion.
No, because yeah.
So are we going to expect anything different from him, or is it just going to be more of the same? And I think he can kind of be that kind of low end QB1, high end QB2.
Yeah, that's why I say I don't believe it, because I'm along the lines of McSpanky here, of like I think we've seen who T-Law is, and it's just nothing. It's not overly spectacular. Like everything's really good. It's just like, can you go just a little bit further?
He's good.
And
he's like,
we haven't seen that.
And good is fine. Like, I mean, Kirk Cousins has been relevant for a long time, and he's not like, like the best quarterback in the world, but he's good, and he's fine, and he's useful, right?
Yep. And so for me, I think he's a solid QB2, right? Going to be in that 13 to 18 range. I think there's some guys below him that could jump him. But I think with a good season, he could jump up a little bit. But I think he's kind of where he is.
All right, so we started off with a strong conviction on our first riser. Let's
let's get a real riser in here, guys.
We've talked about it quite a bit. This is probably at this rate we can call it one of Spanky's favorites, Bryce Young. But honestly, I don't think any other team helped out their quarterback more than the Panthers did, right? And so I just think adding Deontay Johnson is probably the biggest help you can do. Like that guy is always, I wouldn't say always open, but he is a target hog.
7-11, baby.
Yeah. So I wouldn't go that far, but I'm a big fan of Deontay Johnson, and I just think that he's going to help out. Like we saw Thielen help out Bryce Young some games, And so I think Deontay Johnson can do that on a consistent base. And then also adding a good running back. They added Jonathon Brooks. So I think that whole offense is going to run a lot better. And then on top of that, they added depth to the offensive line. I think they signed 2 offensive linemen, right? So I just think
guards,
I think they can move up quite a bit overall as an offense. And he is all the way down. I've been using FantasyCalc a lot for my rankings. I also mainly use Dynasty Daddy though, and they use like a bunch of different. The coolest thing is they use ADP from Sleeper, so that's like my favorite thing. But I wanted to use FantasyCalc today just because. But he's all the way down at QB 21, right? And so guys like Bo Nix, easily he can jump. JJ McCarthy,
easy.
JJ McCarthy, I think, is going to have those rookie slumps a little bit. And then Drake May is all the way up at QB 15. I think that's a bit high for him there. So I just think, and then we already kind of know what Jared Goff is. So if Bryce Young shows out this year, I think he can move up above Jared Goff as well.
Yeah, Jared will never move. Doesn't matter what he does.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's kind of what I mean. So I just think down at QB 21 right now, he's kind of, in my opinion, a buy. I know some people are still out on him, but to me, I think with what the Panthers have done for him, he's gonna rise, in my opinion.
I think so too. I've been scooping him up everywhere. You can get him for fairly cheap. I mean, cheap-ish for a former, first-round quarterback. So
one of my favorite, I don't know about, I think I probably could have gotten a little cheaper, but one of my favorite trades I thought was really good for my team. And so I think it was 112 and 312 for Bryce Young. I think that was not much of an overpay, but probably like right at that good. And it was a couple weeks before the draft, like the NFL draft. Yeah. So it was, I think if anything, that probably is about the same as what he'd go for today, right? Just because I think most people would rather have the new shiny QB out of the top 3. Probably, I would assume. I think it's a coin flip for Bo Nix and him with people, and Bo Nix has been going, anywhere from like 110 to 202. So I just think, it just depends. But if you're trading for Bryce Young versus drafting Bo Nix, I think you're gonna have to pay a little bit more.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
No, I love it. I've talked enough about Bryce Young, so I don't know how much more I can say about him. Other than I love him. The guy that I came up with for my quarterback is Tua. So he's currently quarterback 17 on FantasyCalc right now, which feels super low. The last 2 years, he's been in the top 10 for points per dropback. Last 2 seasons, he still has Tyreek Hill, he still has Jalen Waddle, and I suspect a lot of this is one, the rookie hype. People are wanting, the Drake Mays and the JJ McCarthys and the Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, and that's great. But we've actually seen Tua produce in the NFL, which I think can't be discounted. He has a good offense. He's got great weapons around him. I think part of the reason too is he doesn't have a long-term contract right now. He's on his 5th-year option. I suspect as soon as he gets that contract there and people see him with a little bit more stability, he'll kind of rise back up. And I think he's probably going to be one of those guys who can kind of go right in the back end, kind of in that T-Law range, right in the back of like, QB 12 to like 15. And some guys ahead of him, and we kind of talked about him, but I think, like Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, T-Law, May, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, some of those guys that are ahead of him currently that I think he has the chance to pass, just because, Tua, like, how many times did we see him throw for like 400 yards and like 4 touchdowns because Tyreek Hill did everything for him. And Hill's still there for a couple more years, and Jalen Waddle's no slouch either. So I don't know.
I think the biggest thing is that long-term contract. I think he's playing on his 5th year.
He is. He's on the option right now.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to work something out, which I'm sure they will. So I just, in my opinion, like, looking at some of the guys above him, like, I can, same as what I was saying for Bryce Young, like JJ McCarthy's ahead of him, Brock Purdy's ahead of him, Drake May, Dak Prescott, and then T-Law's up ahead of him too. Those are the guys directly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys directly ahead of him, and then the 6 guys, Jaden Daniels. So I think if he puts together a good season, he can jump all 6 of those guys, right, and jump up to QB 12. So at QB 18 right now, I'm in recent startups I've done. Like I've seen him going in the late third, sometimes early fourth. To me, that's a steal, because he may not be this like flashy guy, but at the end of the day, he puts up numbers for fantasy.
Yeah, no, he's been awesome for fantasy. Like I think people still have. It wasn't that long ago. He missed a bunch of games and he wasn't staying on the field. Last season, he kind of put that to rest a little bit. I mean,
took that judo.
He took the judo, man. It did look at the difference it made.
Learn how to fall, man.
It helped.
Didn't not one single concussion.
Right.
So.
Maybe he's onto something there.
Yeah.
Should we move on to wide receivers?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So for my riser, I picked Xavier Worthy. Being attached to Mahomes makes it pretty darn easy. Possibility Rashee Rice misses his time. If he puts anything, semblance of an average, wide receiver season, people are just going to think that there's a possibility he builds on that coming into year 2. And then the hype train can really start, if he hits the ground running in Kansas City. I think it's pretty easy to see a path for him to really rise up the boards. I didn't want to pick a rookie, but going through, like, everybody's just kind of aging out. There's going to be a new crop of rookies coming in. So really to rise in these rankings, like, you pretty much have to be a rookie or, sub 25, probably sub 24 to really rise.
No, I like Worthy, and I think the more I've kind of seen of him, he's not just like a pure like track guy. He actually can run routes. His hands, I still have some questions on his hands, which he might fit right in with some of those Kansas City receivers. They definitely have a type.
True that.
They do. Yes, they do.
What the deal is there, but I think he'll be fine, and I think. Man, I don't know. Like, they need someone desperately to step in. Rashee Rice kind of was that guy. If he misses time, Worthy's there. I mean, what are they going to do? Rely on Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore? Like, they need something. Travis Kelce can't do it all.
I think he's going to come out super hot. So he's kind of a guy that I want to keep my eye on and maybe high, because I think well, this will end up. I'll have to wait and see what happens with Rashee Rice and everything. But like, if he were to come out and have like a couple of really, really good games, he's a guy that I would definitely try to move off of, because once we see Rashee Rice come back, he had a really good connection with Patrick Mahomes. So I just think, I like the pick at Worthy Rising. He's one of the guys that I really like coming into the draft. But I just think since Tyreek Hill, we haven't really seen a consistent wide receiver in Kansas City.
So my only pushback, so he's wide receiver 18 right now on Fantasy Calc at least. How much higher can he go realistically?
I don't know that he can go that much higher, but he can rise.
Sure. Okay.
That's all I took from it. I could see.
Fair enough.
I
mean, that was Olave the name of the segment, so fair enough.
Olave and London are kind of in an odd spot right now. Like, where if they don't show anything more than what they have prior to this, I think we could see a drop from them. I think the same of Devonta Smith at this point.
You're
foreshadowing ahead of him too, and he's in a run first offense, and
Waddle,
foreshadowing a little bit for
Collins.
Me.
Yeah.
Ooh, little tease.
So I'll just take it away here. My guy's DK Metcalf, right? I know he's a little bit older, but not really for a wide receiver. He's 26 years old. But he's down at wide receiver 20, right? And I agree a little bit. Like, as the receivers are aging a little bit, you don't want the new rookie guys are going to come in and they're going to kind of be up ahead of them. But in my opinion, guys like DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, like I just said, Pittman, Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Drake London, like all these guys, like if DK Metcalf has a good season, I could see him jumping those guys, and it could be somebody that we feel more comfortable with, and I think their new offensive coordinator coming in, he ran a lot of 3-set wide receivers at Washington. Obviously it's different. The Pac-12 doesn't really have defense. So the NFL is much different, but I do think DK Metcalf is going to be the featured wide receiver, and he always has been, but I think he's going to be, and I think that new head coach and the new offensive coordinator are really going to help both him and JSN, right? I don't think JSN will really rise as much as we would like, but I do think I could see DK Metcalf jumping up over some of those guys. Like we there's issues with Ayuk and his contract. I love Brendan Ayuk, but I just think kind of contract stuff could get in the way a little bit. Pittman, run first offense. Devonta Smith. I don't want to take away from kind of my one of my followers earlier or later, but I just think someone like him might fall a little bit because I think that whole Eagles offense is gonna have a rough time. And then Drake London, kind of a same thing like you said with Chris Olave, like it's kind of show it or not that season coming up. So I just think some of those guys there, DK Metcalf could, because we've seen it from him, right? I think last year their offensive coordinator was meh. It's Waldrop, right?
Waldron. Yeah.
And so I think he was kind of like meh. And so I just think that offensive coordinator coming in is going to be very good.
I mean, he was meh, but not for DK Metcalf at least. He still had over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. So DK Metcalf has been wildly consistent. Let me just read his yardage and touchdowns since he's been in the league. 11-19 and 8, 13-99 and 12, 967 and 12, 11-84 and 8, 11-14 and 8. Like he's basically like so you can lock him up for 8 touchdowns and about 1,000 yards. And you're right. Like the new offensive coordinator in Seattle, like homie airs it out, so which feeds right into what DK Metcalf can do. They had JSN, I think, might actually get to be used this year too.
Yes.
So you can have 3 actual wide receivers running routes instead of just having JSN stay at the line of scrimmage. And Gino can throw a pretty deep ball. So I think there's a lot of value to be had in the Seattle offense.
Yeah, and I think say if Gino doesn't do well, I think Sam Howell's there. Obviously, I don't think Sam Howell is this really good quarterback. He turns the ball over way too much. But
he can sling it.
I was just gonna say he can sling it as well. So either way, it's gonna be good for DK Metcalf.
Shit, someone's got to be out there to catch it. I don't care what jersey they're wearing.
Right. Who do you got, Holler? Oh, I'm sorry, McSpanky.
That was Holler's guy.
That was me.
So I went down the rankings here. I found my boy Khalil Shakir. He's all the way down at wide receiver 70, which is basically useless, which is crazy because honestly, he might be one of their best receivers that they have on their roster right now. So I think he's in for a good season. Buffalo lost a ton of targets from last season, over 42% of their total targets last year from Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. We know Dalton Kincaid's going to get a big chunk of that. We know Keon Coleman, who they drafted the first pick of the second round, is going to get a bunch of targets too. But Shakir was one of their best wide receivers on the stretch last season. He scored in both their playoff games. He was used a ton. He outproduced Stephon Diggs the last 10 weeks of the season, despite having only like half the targets Stephon Diggs had. And he's basically free right now too. Like Shakir, some trades that I saw, Shakir for the 309 and 25 fourth, Shakir plus the 403 for the 305 in this year's draft, Shakir and Judy for Christian Watson. This one was a little more pricey, Shakir for the 208, which I don't know if I'd quite pay. I mean, maybe I would. I don't know. It depends on the board. A late 2. If you think you're a competitor, a late 2 for next year, I think it was more than reasonable. Honestly, I think that's probably overkill. I think you could get it done with a couple 3s. And Shakir, and if you guys remember too, Josh Allen, he loved Cole Beasley, who was kind of his slot guy who ran those underneath routes. And Shakir averaged, I think it was like 14.7 yards per reception last year. So, and he was money. He was coming down with some big catches. He's a good little receiver. He came out of Boise State. Kind of a slower start to his career, but I think he's got a great opportunity in front of him. And wide receiver 70, it's not going to take much for him to do, anything to rise up from that, in my opinion.
Yep, agree. Yeah. I'm sorry with the I was looking at some trades. Like there was one done, says 5.8. It was where'd it go?
That's today.
Khalil Shakir for Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins, 2 QB, 10 team, 1 PPR, 0.5 times.
What?
Jeez Louise.
Was it
somebody is bought in?
I don't know.
Shakir's mom?
It's your burner, is what it is.
There's some other ones like there's this one I liked a lot. Shoot, where to go? Khalil Shakir for Gus Edwards. Good for me. Good with me. I mean, it just depends on the team. Khalil and a 2024 round 4 for a 2024 round 3. So that one I like, just moving back around and picking up Shakir. So kind of exactly what you said. A 2 and 3 for Shakir and a 4. Maybe a little pricier than I would like there, but honestly, not bad at all. I like a lot what I've seen here, other than that one that I just called out. But I like
that was unhinged.
Seems pretty cheap in my opinion. I saw one right here, Khalil Shakir for Curtis Samuel. They're right next to each other on FantasyCalc. 60.
That's funny too.
It's 69 and 70.
Which Bills slot receiver do you believe in?
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. And I don't know. I think it's going to be depending on the day, but I do think Shakir will be the better wide receiver if we're talking Samuel versus Shakir.
I do too. I think he's just a better talent.
Makes sense. Khalil Shakir, the Buffalo Bills wide receiver 1?
No.
No, but he's good.
Yeah. All right. So for my running back riser, I got Jonathon Brooks. He's just got that age on his side at this point. We didn't really get a huge influx of rookies this year. Still kind of in that odd spot of aging out with Kamara, Mixon, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry. We're seeing all these guys move for like mid-late seconds, things of that nature. So he doesn't have to do much really to tread water and even rise up the ranks as a rookie. He comes in and performs at the end of the day. I think he could surpass Josh Jacobs, possibly Rashad White, possibly even Kenneth Walker, just depending on what this new coaching staff does in Seattle with him. And Kyron could drop. Kyron's sitting ahead of him. They drafted Corum. We could see a split really dig into Kyron, and all it takes for these rookies to rise is just a little bit of excitement. It doesn't really take very much.
The running back landscape is so dead too. Like any of these young guys do anything, and all of a sudden it wasn't that long ago. DeAndre Swift was like the running back 2, and it was based off of like him staying healthy for 4 games. So it's like it doesn't matter. Like some of these rookies, and if Jonathon Brooks has especially if he has like a really good stretch to end the season, say like the last like month and a half, he just kind of goes nuclear. He could easily be a top 5 to 7 running backs, just because there's really not a ton once you get past like Breece Hall and Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan and some of those guys. Like you can talk. I mean, Christian McCaffrey's getting older. Jonathan Taylor's had some issues. Like you can really it starts getting dicey real quick on the running back landscape. So I believe this one. And we talked about when we talked about Bryce Young, but they spent all that money. They spent the most money on guards in the NFL. So, I mean, just tell me they're just going to pound the ball up the middle. So,
he was going to be.
I think Canales came out and said he really wants to get that run game going too. I mean, so it's at least in the back of his mind.
Yeah, he was going to be my guy as well, but he's already up at running back 10 on FantasyCalc, and then I think it's running back 12 on KeepTradeCut, but I do think he can move up. Right? He has a good season. Unfortunately, this hurts my heart, but Devon A-Chain, you can't stay on the field, so I think he could leap him if he has a good season. Kyron Williams, I think he can leap him if he has a good season. Even like Saquon Barkley is another year older. And I think I've talked about it already and beat a dead horse, but I just don't really believe in that Eagles offense. So even somebody like Travis Etienne, and then Jonathan Taylor, we've seen him injured as well. So there's only probably 5 guys that I don't think he could jump, including Jonathan Taylor, because I think he will have a good season. So I could see him up there around 6 through 8 range for sure next year if he puts together a good season.
Yeah,
for sure.
Would not take much at all.
So my guy, it's probably a little bit. I was going to take some time, but Marshawn Lloyd, he's down at running back 27 on FantasyCalc. I just think it's going to take time because Josh Jacobs is still there. So starting the beginning of the season, he's going to be the RB1, obviously. And so I just think by the end of the season, though, it's probably going to be more of a split. And I think possibly Green Bay they do have an out after 1 year on there. He kind of has a weird contract, so he's my running back 3 in this class, behind Brooks and Benson. I think him and Benson both are going to be the running back 1s on their teams going into 2025. I think being down at running back 27 and then being running back 1 on his team, I just think Marshawn Lloyd's going to be up in that top 15 range for sure.
Yep, I love it. Marshawn Lloyd's in a good spot. He's really talented too. Like if you watched him at USC, he's shifty. He took a ton of like screens and just made all kinds of dudes miss. He's a good running back. Let's see. The one I had here, I had Zamir White. I talked about him quite a bit. I know I went out on a limb with his
yes you did.
But I got some numbers to back it up now. So he's in a contract through 25. So I don't think they're going to move on from him. I think he has opportunity to be their lead back next year as well. It's going to be a run heavy scheme with what's his face coming over from Chicago. I'm blanking on his name.
Getsy.
Thank you, Getsy. And so the last 4 weeks of the season last year, Zamir White was the running back 9, which if math checks out here, that is a running back 1. So
it is.
See it for a whole season.
Let's see
it for a whole season.
Hey, a 4-game stretch is almost as good as a whole season. We know this.
Right. And Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles our LA Chargers were involved in those things, and neither of those teams could stop the run at all this past season. So
Kansas City was one of those defenses, and they won a Super Bowl. So
that's
it's
fine.
true.
That's fine. I'm just saying 2 out of the 4. Right. 2 out of the 4.
Hit me with your tight end run.
Oh, Mr. Jake Ferguson. I just think he's going to continue to rise. He's going to continue to be Dak's safety blanket. That volume's just going to stay there. I'm not afraid of Luke Schoonmaker.
No.
I was nervous with Brock Bowers in the draft that it was a possibility and Jake Ferguson would die with that, but luckily we dodged that bullet. But really, I mean, looking at tight end up above him, we have Kyle Pitts, we have TJ Hawkinson, we have Kittle and Kelsey that are in the same tiers here. Kittle and Kelsey are to that age where really we could see a bad season from either one of them, and I wouldn't be like, oh my God, didn't see that coming. Oh, it makes sense, at this point in their careers. And that's really where I think he could rise if either one of those take a step back. And really Kittle's volume has been down, even though he still has those games that can win you weeks. The volume has been pretty bad for Kittle. And if Ferguson puts together another season, I could see him jumping Kittle pretty easily for sure.
Yeah, I like that one. Just ahead of him is, Ingram, Njoku, and for some reason Ben Sinnott is up there at tight end 10, which on
what the hell?
Which is crazy to me.
I've drafted 0 of that dude because somebody said H-back, and I said nope, no, thank you.
That's crazy to me.
I have a lot of him.
I would take Njoku, Ingram, and Ferguson all day. I know Njoku's not like the greatest with Deshaun Watson, but I would still take Njoku over him. I think Spanky and I had the same guy. I didn't even notice. Tucker Kraft. Yeah, sorry, Tucker Kraft, but he's down at tight end 26, and in my opinion, he is the better of the 2 tight ends on Green Bay. What's his name? Luke Musgrave can't stay on the field. But I think the one thing that Musgrave is a little bit better at is he's more of a downfield threat. But in a tight end, I think you need to be a good blocker, and Tucker Kraft can run after the catch. So I just think to me that's a better tight end. And he's, like I said, down at tight end 26. I think he can move up easily into the top 15.
Yep, 100%. I basically had the same thing. So, but I got another 4-game sample that Ron loves. Over the 4 games when Luke Musgrave was out, Tucker Kraft was the tight end 7, which is higher than any stretch that Luke Musgrave had. So, Musgrave's fine, but he's played 1 full season basically in his since high school. That included his time at Oregon State and now in Green Bay. Not to mention, I think he had 2 different concussions this year. So he played games and didn't finish them. It didn't cause him to miss like the week after, but he didn't get to finish the games he was in. So that's something to keep an eye on. And if he can't stay on the field, like I think even, I got to double check this, but during the playoffs, Tucker Kraft was involved a lot more even when Musgrave was back on the field. I think it's because they realized Tucker Kraft can ball. He's one of those South Dakota State guys, so they keep seeming to put NFL players out.
They just churn them out there.
Those jackrabbits, man, something in the water out in the Dakotas, baby.
Should have went out there, huh?
I guess.
Side note, I got 17% Tucker Kraft. I liked Tucker Kraft's film. It wasn't very long or anything, but there's a few rumbles and stumbles down the sideline from college, man, and you can just see it, man.
I got 21% exposure on him, so
nice.
I got you slightly beat there. So very very excited.
Let me see here.
Don't worry, I have you beat in Ray shares, so
I think some of my let's see some of my top tight ends real quick, which I was pleasantly surprised on. Was Jake Ferguson and Tucker Kraft. 10 Jake Ferguson, 9 Tucker Kraft. So I'm up at 17% and 19%, and then Trey McBride as well. I got 17% as well. So nice. I feel like I'm doing pretty good in the tight end department.
There you go.
Yes, you
Look
are.
At you go. Look at you.
Kate Stover, I have a 14 share somehow. I think I got those off of waivers.
Kate
Stover. Huh? Well, it went downhill. Yeah, I would have left that part out.
Yeah.
Just once we got to get down to cuts and stuff, maybe if there's taxi squads on some teams.
I like Stover, to be fair, before the draft. He just didn't get the capital, which was a little disappointing. But
we could go off of I have 14 shares of Puka and 13 shares of DK Metcalf. So
there you go. Those are the ones. Yeah. I have 20% exposure of Bryce Young and Zamir White too, so I'm just ready to ready to eat, boys.
My Lord, yeah, you're ready to crush it.
Feasting.
Oh snap! 15% on Bryce Young. He's my highest.
Ron, do you have a single Bryce Young share? That's actually what I really want to know. Do you even have a single Bryce Young?
Hold on, let me find out. I think I do. I might have 2.
I
have 2. I have 2 exactly.
Nice.
8 Bryce Young, 7 Bo Nix. Whoa there.
Heyo.
Little shout out. We're all looking up our rostership off of Dynasty Daddy.
It's actually super fun to do. You should definitely give it a try.
Yeah.
And they have a really nice trade database too, where you can see what other teams have or other fantasy managers have done with their trades, and some of them are unhinged, but some of them are pretty good too, and it gives you a nice little ballpark of this is what he's going for. Side note on that topic of trades. This happened the other day, and so it's fresh in my mind. If you come to me and you say, "Hey, McSpanky, do you have this player available?" I'm going to give you the same answer every time. I will trade anybody if you give me an offer that's worth a shit. And then 2, what I will say is, if you then come to me and say, "Well, what do you want for him?" Don't come to me looking for a trade and then make me do all the work. If you want a player from my roster, at least send me something. It doesn't have to be an actual trade offer, but it'd be like, "Hey, what do you think of, player X for your player Y?" And then at least gives me something to start on. Don't make me do all the work for you.
No. Yeah, it's just super mysterious. They want me to shoot myself in the foot. Like, dude, you know what you're willing to give up to for this guy if you're asking me this question. Just send it on over, man. Send it on over.
Just send the trade offer. Don't make me do the work for you, because if you make me send the offer first, I'm probably going to do something a little rowdy. So
you want your soul.
Yes, exactly. Anyways,
well, you guys have any parting thoughts?
Just that.
Yeah,
Tyrone Tracy.
Tyrone Tracy. Okay, so
yes,
Tyrone Tracy, baby.
Let's go.
The secret's out of the bag, though, because he was so buried on Sleeper's ADP, you had to scroll all the way to the bottom to find him. But now he's starting to creep up, and I've seen people take him. Whenever I got to the 4th round of rookie picks, I was just by default, I just scrolled to the bottom of the running back rankings, and now he's gone because people know the word got out.
I have him probably in every one of our leagues together because I have 25 shares. 47% exposure. But
I don't care about a New York Giants running back.
Well,
you might when he sees the field.
Man, I'll be coming to you.
I won't take him. I won't buy him.
Yep, 25 first. Sell high, baby.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously the opportunity's there for the dude and everything, but I just can't get behind the Daniel Jones-led Giants offense that has been competent at its best times. I don't.
You just need volume at the running back position.
Yeah, I mean it's fair, but
and if anything happens to Devin Singletary, Tracy's gonna see the field, right?
I would definitely think so. I agree, and I understand it and everything. And I mean, it's a 4th round pick, so who really cares? At this point, I'm just
talking about this way about Puka this time last year. So
that's fair. That is fair.
I feel like my Puka this year might be Javon Baker. I've got 12 shares of him.
Wow,
he is a crazy person.
Guy, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Well,
he makes people in wheelchairs stand up apparently. So
yeah, man, he's just working miracles out there. Yeah. Can't believe it.
On that note, we should probably get out of here.
Yeah.
I think we're going to cover the opposite of what we did tonight. So some guys who are going to fall in value looking next week. So we'll get a little more negative next week.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Woo! Peace out, guys.
See ya.